Yeah, I'll say this is a form of writing that I have less experience with, just because I haven't had to do that much in terms of PRDs or design docs. Like I've had to do like two, and that's about it. And I don't think it's very rigorous at all. So like I imagine in a bigger company like a Booking or Airbnb, maybe this is a very ritualized and formalized process. So yeah, it's a really good form of writing at work. Does he have?
Yeah, I
He
oh,
has
go ahead.
examples. He has examples.
Uh
Okay, so he has like source graph. Oh, he has examples from all these companies.
from a fair amount of them. I don't know
Wow.
if it's all of them, but it's like a long list of, and I don't know how detailed they are. I didn't go too much into the actual documentation themselves. Um, it's funny because he wrote another article kind of talking about. He always talks about kind of his stance on agile and its place in big tech, and how big tech and a lot of tech companies, especially in like San Francisco and that area, has kind of taken a significantly more informal approach. And this is kind of like the type of stuff that he's talking about. Like their documentation is kind of informal. Like it, it's weird, you know. It's not like, for instance, he was talking about, I think, architecture documents, and he was talking about, for the most part, it's just squares and lines. It's not necessarily like a rigid process that you'd like see in school. So
Yeah, it's true. I wonder if we should. I wonder if we should train people to do this, because it would be really interesting. I think it's a really good topic. Um, yeah. Wow. Okay. This is awesome. Thanks for sharing this. It's really great.
no problem, no problem.
I'm going to put this into to add to writing chapter. We don't actually have a writing chapter. We have a pre-writing chapter, which is what we're talking about today. But I love this. This is really good. So we have this thing on writing. Essentially, like I think a lot of people ask me about writing process and like how you write so much with a day job. Definitely don't feel like I write as much as I could. I'm gonna pause the music. Definitely don't feel like I write as much as I could, but you know, to some extent, the insight is basically to write a bunch of things at the same time, um, and to separate the pre-writing process from the actual writing, and to work on a bunch of different drafts at the same time. Realistically, what that looks like is a bunch of ideas that I accumulate ideas from, and then for stuff that I'm actively developing, I would have active drafts that I'm working on as well. So each of them may or may not take you know, a shorter or longer time, but it's very much dependent on, do I have the inspiration? Is the timing right? And are you testing it enough to ship something when the time comes? Eugene says 485 pages. Yeah, yeah, I definitely could be doing more. And that's just you're always fighting. Something I noticed actually. So, and this is something that if you study creators, you want to have a regular practice, and then after a while, if you have built up enough of a reputation, you don't need a regular practice. So Emma Chamberlain just came back to YouTube, and she's one of the biggest YouTubers. Like imagine like the standard YouTuber advice is post like 1 to 2 times a week, every week. And imagine going away for 6 months, and then instantly being back onto the front page with just a vlog of New York. And that's basically just because people have a really good sense of who she is and a lot of loyalty and nostalgia. But also, when she was getting off the ground, she posted every week for 55 straight weeks, which is how I found out about this. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is like, there's some pivot from regularity to quality that happens with every creator. Same for Wait But Why. I don't have, what's the way to do this? Consistency. Yeah. So Wait But Why is a very well-known, so I think he had he did an interview where he talked about his journey, and so that's kind of over here, and he said the same thing. He posted every week on Facebook for 2 years, and then after he got enough of a following, he actually converted that into a high quality article. I actually haven't seen an article from Wait.Y for a long time, but whenever it comes out, it always makes the news. So people are willing to pay even like a monthly Patreon just for him to figure it out. Let's see when his latest article was. So he's got a mailbag. He doesn't even have dates anymore, just because I'm pretty sure it's not very frequent. Trump Biden debate. So the last post was December 2020. He's hosting once a year. Amazing. So yeah, frequency is a complicated or moving target, essentially. Anyway, so yeah, the goal of this chapter is to help people get an understand of like the roles of the creative process and get you comfortable with the fact that you can split it up so that you can work on multiple things at once, test it, get it better asynchronously, and then do focus sessions on writing. And this kind of ties into the other chapter for today, which is also side projects. Writing is a side project of mine, and why they're useful. You know, a lot of times it's a breakable toy. A lot of times it's for you to better articulate things that you're experiencing at work, and it's really useful for that reason. I'm just gonna pause there, but like, you know, does anyone have like focus questions on writing that you wanted to dive into?
So, you know, you like the kind of story you had told is kind of like being consistent to build an audience, and then kind of shifting gears from consistency to quality. Like, obviously, you don't necessarily want to write something that pisses everybody off, but is it more a matter of whatever comes to your head, you try to put that on quote unquote paper and get that out just so that people see that you're posting consistently? Or do you try to build like a level of a brand or something at the same time?
Whatever works to make you consistent. So if you can do the consistent brand thing, like you have an idea that you're always pitching, you have a theme that you're always focused on, that you can come up with new topics every week, then do that. But otherwise, don't try. You know, like if it gets in your way, then get rid of it. Because it's more important to have the muscle of being able to write whenever you feel like it, and to write consistently, and to find ideas, than it is to try to actively build a brand from the start. In other words, like, actually sometimes you don't know what you are interested in that resonates with other people until you explore like 50 different things. So why not just explore 50 different things first?
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Then the other thing is the other thing not to forget is, if you write whatever you feel like writing, nobody owes you a response, right? Nobody owes you. You don't be surprised if it's sort of crickets. But if you respond to someone else that is actively working on something, you know, that is the philosophy behind Pick Up What They Put Down, right? Which is to engage in active conversation with other builders, with other things, with something that is current, and you have much higher chance of a response rate, and to build up a small following that turns into a big following.
So then it's like, so it's really having something for somebody to come back to talk to you about, but also kind of engaging as, so you're engaging to get people to come back and take interest in you, and then actually have something there for them to be interested in looking at. Like, yeah. That's the idea. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I can give examples, because I feel like this is always too abstract. But every time I give an example, it feels like bragging. I don't know, but anyway, so recently, one of the bigger things I've done in the past month or so has been this tweet, which got maybe, I don't know, 450,000 impressions. And it was entirely picking up what others put down based on Sam Lambert's comment in a podcast. So if you see my DMs of him, he actually took notice of me just from here, but then also it was because of this change log. Sam Lambert. I was listening to this podcast and he said something in this podcast that I tweeted out, right? And basically picked up what he was putting down in terms of like, this is the trend, but then also made added context with other trends that I was also seeing, and then turned that into a narrative that people really liked. But now I have a conversation going with the CEO of PlanetScale. So that is one way in which this kind of thing develops based on the pick of what you put down philosophy. The way that I had this, I did not have any of this sorted out. So I just keep adding to stuff, and I ask for ideas. So all the replies really help in putting together a blog post, which is kind of the mise en place writing. I definitely use my own Twitter as notes that are incrementally accumulated in order to write a blog post, which I eventually did. And so the only way to write something like this, where you have thesis, discussion, lots of quotes, and so every single one of these quotes are just people responding to the original tweet. And so partially Twitter is a way to co-write or crowdsource your blog post, because it's all small chunks.
What was the timeline of all of that, if you don't mind me asking?
Start to finish, about 3 days.
Wow.
June 6th, and then this one was what? June 8th, yeah, 3 days.
Oh, that's pretty crazy.
And I could have done it faster, but I took more time to edit it. So this was a rush job. I think there have been others that are much longer running. So maybe I'll, one thing I'm working on right now is a pitch startup. This one is probably my next piece. And this one I've been working on for maybe 8 months. How to pitch that to us, there we go. So the mise en place part is ideas and testing, right? Every time I meet a founder, I've been saying, all right, how do you pitch this idea? Like observing how they pitch it, like what works on me and what's less convincing, and saying, all right, these are the patterns in which I think they're convincing. And then for me, reframing and organizing was adding like the 3x3 matrix of how I'm going to explain this. So I've been collecting this for 8 months, and yeah, I have a bunch of quotes here. I can link through all this resource. Like I know that, for example, when the Robinhood CEO was doing his congressional testimony, he used the public narrative format, and I can pull in that evidence, but I don't have to write that blog post immediately. I can just put it in my notes. And that's why it's useful to do pre-writing, which is essentially, I don't have to work on this right now, but anytime something relevant comes in, I can just chuck it in there and it will be there waiting for me when I eventually decide to write it. So I'm probably gonna write this over this weekend. I was supposed to write it for Friday, but Friday got busy, and also there's other stuff going on in the real world, so it wasn't a good day to write. But probably this weekend I'll write it. But yeah, that's how a real life example of mise en place writing, because I do think this stuff really improves your writing, and it should be separate from your active writing, because it just sometimes this just takes time to happen. Sometimes you have random inspiration, you talk to other people, you test it on people, and you get feedback, right? So here's me testing it on a friend who's a reviewer, and I showed it to him. So I showed it to him. Wow, what the fuck is it? Okay. So I showed it to him, and he was like, he gave me some feedback on the dimensions that I was trying to pick, and I had to explain it more. So that was a little bit of what's going on there. Let me explain. That was the audience testing part, which is just, try it out in front of people and see if it sticks. And if it doesn't stick, if people are confused, then you have a chance to edit it before you publish. Yep.
Sorry. How do you choose like who your test audience is, or is it just whoever is willing to kind of listen to you?
No, neither. It's more like, do you know if they are specifically interested in that topic just based on your knowledge of the person? Like, it's just literally like, let's say you have 30 friends and, 2 of them are super interested in this topic, you go straight to them, right? So you just have a mental catalog of who is working on what and what have you talked about before. I think I have a good, not great memory of my conversations with people. I can always search my DMs. There's a separate app called text.app that has DM search. It's text.app. Maybe it's text.com. Yeah, it's text.com. So this is actually good DM search. Twitter's own built-in DM search sucks. But yeah, just have a mental catalog of who's interested in what, and if it's relevant, you send it along. That's it. If I was actually serious about it, I would use a CRM software like Monica is one that's. This is a personal CRM where you actually make notes of what relationships you have going on with each person and when you discuss stuff and what they're interested in and when their kid's birthday is and so on and so forth. This is a little bit too much work for me, but yeah, this is what you should do if you're actually serious about it.
That's pretty interesting. I can't imagine having like a CRM, at least not currently. I don't think I have enough relationships for that, but yeah. That's interesting.
There's a earth.dev, something like that. Earth CRM, clay.earth. Yeah. I checked this out as well. This is kind of like an automated one that just listens into your emails and DMs and hopefully constructs it for you, so you don't have to do so much data entry. Yeah, people are trying to solve this. I think it's a real problem if you like and if you want to keep up good relationships with a lot of people, but you just don't have the memory space to handle reminders and notes and stuff like that. The really good search is obviously useful, but people are trying to automate and give some intelligence to this stuff. Cool. Well, that is the writing piece. I definitely want to. So this is about pre-writing. This is about the process of writing. I think the actual writing itself, like what is good writing, how to improve writing, is something that I haven't really written down because I feel like I don't know what that means as well. I feel like there's a lot of tacit, unwritten knowledge that I've just accumulated, and I need to figure out how to communicate it. But at some point, I want to write a writing chapter. Side projects also. I mean, you don't have to do. Oh yeah.
Sorry. On writing, I saw a hot tweet from you yesterday or the day before.
It wasn't that hot.
Where you said, well, it just reads like maybe you were saying all these techniques are secondary unless you don't have. You should have something to say first before. You should have something to say first before actually using the different techniques. How to become a better writer, or there's one other article we were referring.
Yeah. So, do you have any thoughts or questions about that?
No, I think that's where the main struggle is for me. I think with some of these like Grammarly and stuff like that, you can not just Grammarly, but once there is something to say, it's easy to right. I think it's something to say in public is the biggest hurdle. Like everything seems to be said better, or there is always someone who has written a more advanced version of what you're thinking, right? Um, so what I found is like that bar, like especially if you read a lot online. If whenever I read a lot online, like, look at, oh, all of this has been said before, like, or if I search long enough, I can find this. So a lot of times, like, should this be, whenever something comes up in my mind, and should this be an article? And it's like, no, this has been said before. Okay. And that's been the mental challenge, I would say, around like, oh, this is not worth writing because it's already done. Is that, and it's the same thing. Maybe the argument is, yes, that's been the mental challenge too, in whenever I think of something writing. Oh, yeah, there's something. I tend to find something that's well said before. But I think but within the so I think maybe this just tangentially, but it works somewhat. The friction is somewhat less when I'm writing within my company, within at work, because there's much more. Not many people have touched on it within our context, so it's much more easy to write within a company. But when it goes to writing in public, it gets more challenging that way.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and also you have a captive audience when it's people that you work with. They have to read what you write. This is why public writing is more challenging, because nobody has to pay any attention. Right. Yeah. So what can I say? I mean, just keep at it, keep trying.
No, is there how do you approach that? Like, I'm sure, like you when you research a topic, do you encounter this, and how do you do you frame it differently? Like, can you give some examples of how you have done that?
Oh man, it's a tough one to come up with examples for. I'm going to read out what Eugene is saying, just for whoever is not reading the chat. So Eugene says, I guess the biggest benefit of writing goes to the writer anyway. The writer gets to structure and clarify their thoughts, learn along the way, and practice sharing their ideas. So if your entire goal is to be read and you judge yourself by external metrics, then you are setting yourself up much more for disappointment than if your goal is to just clarify to yourself, and you win no matter what other people think. So that is a baseline comfort. Obviously, it's a nice to have to also get external validation. The other thing I would say is maybe don't try to appeal to everybody. You often appeal very much if you appeal to a sub demographic that you really identify with or that you speak to, right? So something that someone else said more generally can be specialized or narrowed down to your audience, and that can be useful to them anyway, like interpreted for your audience. So scoping down from something big to something small, and then finally, I think probably like the final tier would be to play in the realm of trying to appeal to everybody and to make memorable statements that rhyme, that make sense, that are quotable. All those are useful things to have. So I don't know. Basically, there are different levels to the game. You can just dabble in one of them at any given point in time, but you don't have to hold yourself at all times to the higher standard possible.
Right. Yeah. I think that's definitely true. Some of our internal notes can be right. Some of my internal notes can just be decently removed from a specific context, and it can become a blog post. Like I learned about, for example, I learned about Kafka Mirror Maker, and it was not very obvious given all the different versions. I could generalize it and write the general idea, put the general idea out, things like that, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps just a note for myself when I'm not in the same context is sufficient enough to be a blog post.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think that actually blogs should have a few categories. So I've started doing categories on my own blog to distinguish between an essay and a note. A note has no, much less review going into it, much less thought. I'm just taking notes, literally taking notes. And so it's, yeah, some of them can perform more than others, but like you should be able to unblock yourself. And most blogs or most writing platforms only give you one format to write, meaning it gives equal emphasis to every piece, and I think that's probably harmful. You can also do the same for tweets. I mean, there's ways to structure tweets such that it's very obvious that this is just a passing thought, and there's others though, where it's very obvious it's the start of a longer essay. Yeah, Eugene, you had a question.
It's a good question. I was wondering, how does your audience stick towards your blog having everything, which it has a lot. And I know you have the search bar, you have the filters, the essays, and everything. How do they feel about you adding the notes in as well, as opposed to just the best of Swix, the biggest and best ideas?
I don't know. I don't really ask them. For me, it's more important for me to be able to find everything that I write. If they want, they can just hit essay and they just get the the essay stuff. And yeah, it's good enough for me.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I actually think maybe the more interesting thing to mess with is the RSS. So I have an RSS feed here. Currently, the RSS feed is the feed of all the things. But what if you could customize it to like, I only want the essays, or I only want essays and podcasts. So I need to make this more dynamic. I was actually just looking at the Hacker News API, and there's this project called HNRSS that gives you basically like adaptable RSS feeds, like RSS with best comments, RSS with searches, RSS with points. So I feel like basically RSS and searches and feeds in general can be a little bit more dynamic than people have today. And yeah, I mean, after a while, like you don't really feel it. You're just like, publish whatever you want. The people who get it will stick around. Like, I think the main hurdle is imagining that you have something to lose from from experimenting, when like really it doesn't matter. The average, if you can study like Google Analytics or something, let's do. So page views and unique visitors, right? Let's say page views. So what this means, let's say the average day would be 22,000 views, and then no, that's a lot. Okay, let's say let's say the average day is 9,000, and then the average visitor is 2,200. So that's like 9 divided by 2. The average visitor only visits 4 pages, and for you, like you're just like that's I mean to optimize for that experience is probably the best way to do it. And for me, it's just like navigating around, clicking through. That's about it. Like, I don't know. I don't have very coherent thoughts apart from like, this is how I prefer to. It's more important for me to organize this, for me to encourage me to produce more, than it is for me to make it make sense to others, because they are only used to a single feed format.
May I probe a little bit more about that?
So this would be a standard single feed format, right? Like everything has equal weight. Obviously, he has very, very high quality, but also sure he has stuff that he would like to write that it just doesn't fit, and like his writing tools get in the way of him writing, for sure. But yeah, what's your question?
So I want to probe a bit on that. So recently, people have been asking on Twitter, who's the best signal to noise ratio on Twitter, right? Yeah. For certain machine learning content, etc.
Sure.
So I guess best signal to noise is the person only tweets very high quality stuff, and then on Twitter people shit post, just chat random stuff. So those people might be filtered out. Yeah. So I guess the same question applies to writing as well.
Yeah.
So maybe you might write about your personal habits, or your Docker. How do you run Docker without Docker Desktop? For those stuff, do you tweet it out? Do you send it in? I don't know if your newsletter. Do you send in your newsletters and everything?
Oh.
How do you adjust it?
Yeah, you can basically put different levels of emphasis. So basically, like, how do you achieve high signal to noise while having high output? I think basically you just have different pipes to different output levels. Sorry, let me be more specific. So for example, right, when I wrote about the Docker Desktop thing, yes, I tweeted about it, but I definitely put like, this is quick. I put a TLDR. Like, I definitely like made it very clear, like, this is not a high effort thing. This is like a throwaway, like, here's the notes. I spent several hours researching this and trying it out, and here's the solution that works for me. But if you want to be very high signal to noise, then I would not tweet this. I would just leave it on the page, maybe put it in the RSS. But Twitter would be for high signal to noise things. And then everything else you would leave in some other format. So in other words, maybe you have like 5 different properties across LinkedIn, Snapchat, Twitter, or whatever. And then some of them you would reserve for high quality stuff, and others you would reserve for low quality stuff. So not low quality, but like just higher frequency stuff, right? So even Ben Thompson does this, right? So a lot of he tries to go for a pattern of once a week, a high quality essay, 4 times a week, smaller updates. You can also see this pattern with, let's say, Sahil Bloom does this a lot. He used to before he was a dad, but I guess he always like, and he has this explicit pattern of, he used to say this. So it's always a thread. There's no shit posting. It's always a thread. And it's usually scheduled for like Tuesdays and Thursdays, something like that. There's a bunch of people who are like that, who that's all that they do, and it's very big, like they have another outlet to channel their thoughts. So for me, maybe it's Discord. Maybe you set up a Discord and you put your running thoughts in there, or your shit posts in there, right? Or you have an alt account. I have an alt account that I put random thoughts in there. Whatever it is, like, create that outlet for you to pipe your noisier parts for the true fans, because you want to engage true fans. You also want to express yourself to get feedback. So I think the trap here is running to a mentality that you have only one way to do things on one platform, and so that's the only output that you should ever do. Like, realistically, it's actually more like a concentric circle thing of, it's just, that's like the largest circle would be what the vast majority of people see, especially the people that don't know you, that don't currently know you. So this should be very high signal to noise. And then the smaller circle would be something that maybe people already know your work. They signed up for updates. And then the smallest circle would be like people who are friends who just get shit posts and stuff.
Have you ever considered splitting up your Swix.io.com into personal stuff and career technical related stuff?
DXTips is the split. I've just started doing the split.
I see.
So one way to do the split is to, I basically wrote everything for 5 years onto my personal site. But when I have, like, I noticed that, for example, 30 JavaScript was a very high leverage blog post. There was another one with the Cloudflare. What's the Cloudflare one? This one did very well on Hacker News. Basically, like tech strategy and DevRel stuff. I would basically cut it out or slice it out from the main feed and then put it into a dedicated post, dedicated property. And I think the final step for me thinking about this is to invite others to turn it into a community resource. So I had my first guest post as well.
Nice.
So I think that's one way to do it, which is this, to shard yourself by topic. And then to establish a brand that you might be able to sell, or you might be able to allow others to join you on that journey. Because ultimately, your name is the one thing that you cannot leave behind. But you can definitely be a primary driver of a separate property that is thematically focused on that topic. And I definitely noticed like it was very easy to get followers for that, just because people know what they're signing up for.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've experimented with this as well with a separate domain, applying machinelearning.com. You know, I ported some of my posts, applying ML. Yeah. So, but I'm still trying to figure out. I want to write for fun and random stuff, but my current audience is, for some reason, really interested in machine learning and whatever. So I'm trying to figure out how do I balance that.
That's not
but
true.
yeah,
you have a lot of good stuff on career stuff. Where's your career stuff?
yeah. So that's the thing. I realized that the career stuff and the writing stuff, it's actually not very valued by my audience for some reason. Don't know why. I think they should read your.
This is one of your
chapter.
bets.
It did well on Hacker News, but the regular people just don't see the value of writing. Yeah, so and I think they should read your chapter on Write a Lot.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out whether I should have different channels for different audiences. Yeah, and that's I guess that's where the question came from.
Well, my answer, so for you, the answer is yes, right? For others, I would say just practice writing first. But because you have so much experience writing, you are at the stage where you should be thinking about splitting it out into a brand. And that's what you've done.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think I should take the step that you did, but I haven't yet, which is to invite other people to contribute guides on applyingml.com.
Yeah.
Look at I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know if you know of Vicky Boykis. Vicky Boykis has a great blog. And I noticed that she splits it into tech stuff and and her own site. Yeah, so her tech blog is only tech, and then her essays are non-tech related.
What about this? Oh, this is a knowledge base.
I think this is like the boring ML part. It's where she. So I was wondering maybe I should do something like that. But I don't know. Still trying to figure it out.
I mean, I like this because it's very you have gone from N of 1 to N of 2. That is like the most minimal next step, right? And it's still the same domain. But
it was previously two domains, but she unified it recently. It was very nice.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I've been following her for a while and observed how her writing has evolved.
Right. I think this is fine. Yeah. So let's just compare her with Julia Evans.
Julia Evans is another great one.
So she's like not bothering with this toggle. She's just saying like there's
everything.
Here are the things that I write, right? This one category, two category, three category, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's say this is.
It's limitless. Yeah, you're right. It is quite varied as well. Huh.
I mean, she has like 15, but like, if you're interested in only her conference, her Linux stuff, right?
Yep.
Then this is
easy to find.
The feed for Linux.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense. Because you're a varied person, and what I mean. My main thing is just to set up your website or your writing tools in a way that it doesn't get in the way of your writing. Like the moment that you feel the writing urge, if you feel blocked because, oh man, I don't know if this fits here or whatever, then it's actually the tool's fault, not your fault, right? Like you need a different outlet, whether it's a Discord or a different page on your blog or different category somewhere, but you just need the outlet to put stuff up.
Gotcha. Thank you for going off tangent with me. I gain a lot from discussing this with you.
Yeah, well, I gain a lot from discussing it as well. I don't have that much of an opportunity. I mean, I do think about this a lot, obviously, but um, I feel much freer when I have a separate venue to post stuff. It's almost like you just want to just get that exercise out, but then also hopefully it's publicly discoverable so that when you need it, it's right there. So for example, some of you might know that I do have a mixtape that is all my audio clips. And it's just audio notes of podcasts that I listen to. It takes me maybe 10 to 30, not 10, let's say 30 minutes a day. But I have used this more often than I realize, because every time I'm like, oh yeah, someone said this in some podcast, I can refer to that specific clip. And all of them are like 15 minutes or whatever. It's super useful for that. So yeah, so maybe I'll just like list it out. So like, what are the circles, right? Definitely you want basically borrowed platforms to be the to be the widest reach one, because that is where you will run into people who don't know you, right? So you need high signal to noise there. So let's say borrowed platforms. So this would be LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, which is basically like you rely on an algorithm to send people your way, and social validation for people to gauge how important you are or whatever. And then there is, let's say, owned platforms. So this would be like Discord. This would be, I mean like personal Discord, blog, like stuff where like people have an existing relationship with you, they've already signed up for more. And then here would be, I don't know, intimacy, I don't know, chat, Discord as well, Zoom, whatever, something like that. Maybe there's more circles, maybe there's less circles, whatever. But like that's how you manage to. That's how I think you manage the signal to noise, right? Like for sure, Sahil has a group chat where he just shitposts a lot more, but there's no room for that in the way that he set up his thing. But that's fine. It really works for the goal that he's trying to do. There's another guy, Julian. Julian is the guy. So he specifically says, he specifically goes for
high quality.
Yeah, exactly. My God, he hasn't posted anything since 2021.
But his stuff is really, really, really high quality. It's like almost a book.
Exactly. So he said this before. He said this in some platform where he was like, yeah, I only publish on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and all of them are pre-planned. I don't spend any time on Twitter reading other people's stuff. It's just an outlet for him. Right? So that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think you made it, I think you lowered the barrier for me to, just start writing more. I may not necessarily, send it out in a newsletter.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spam people. It's just there if you want. I may not necessarily tweet about it.
Yeah.
But it's just an outlet for me to write, right? And I won't be bothering people. I won't be diluting the content that people sign up for, and that's okay.
I think it's amazing. Like maybe there's another equivalent mental model to have of the roles of writing, right? So a lot of people is like, all right, get famous, but and then the way that we started out this call, we mentioned another role, which is to organize your thoughts, right? But then there's so much other mini roles in between there. So this is the very most multiplayer, and then this is like single player. Maybe I should just reduce the font size. How do I do this? This is like not the best way to, sorry. So in between that, there's like small group, right? So this would be, for example, to like cache. which is, for example, if you get a question a lot, if you write the answers to that question a lot, then you can not only write a comprehensive answer, but then you can drop that link to every future response. So it's almost like a reverse proxy type situation for your output. I don't know. So maybe if you like break out more roles of writing, that would be a nice parallel to the platforms on which you write it out.
A Maslow's hierarchy of writing. That sounds like a great idea for a blog post.
You want to write it? I don't. I'm a little bit small.
Well, I'm always trying to get people to write more.
Right.
Whatever I can do. Yeah.
Okay. So
cool.
Smallest group. Okay. Get feedback before publish. Smallest group, something like that. Cache output. Small groups. Yeah. I'll say like this is my initial. Why else do you write? Get famous, cache output. I don't know. Take notes. Take notes. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so I think that's super useful. Eugene, if you have more thoughts on this, please feel free to take this because I don't feel like I have it yet, but I think this is an interesting thing to go after. So I'm also gonna put it down on my notes.
I've screenshotted it. I've written about the benefits of writing. I think I've written the same stuff like 3 or 4 times, but in different organizations, always trying to just convince people to write more, either at work or externally. So yeah.
To the platform. Okay. Yeah, cool.
And this is a great idea, right? Of how, just serendipitously this ideas come and Swix is just adding it to his missing place writing.
Yeah, exactly. It's doubtful that I'll ever actually publish some of these because it's so much. It's so much. There's some stuff that's been here for 2 years. I'm about to do. Yeah, eventually I'll do this one. Yeah. So I don't know, but it feels rich. It feels like any thought I've ever had about potentially writing, I put it in here. And if I have a related quote or fact or elaboration, I can find it in my note system and add on to my previous thought. And that might take place over the span of, or that might take place over the span of 2 years.
May I share my screen and just shame myself? Oh, you cannot share while other participants sharing. Okay, let me share now. So this is my notes.
Yeah.
And whatever is checked out is whatever I've written. And I just added Maslow's hierarchy of writing. And you can see it's just, oh my God, there's some stuff here that I feel ashamed that I even had it as an idea. And I probably, look, mentor, oh yeah, so these are my informal mentors. So you can see it's just, I don't know how am I ever going to get through all of this. And I think a lot of these ideas are just so bad now that I will never write.
What about, so there's such a thing as an idea dump. In other words, like it's not fully formed, but it's like you know that you're never going to get to it in any reasonable amount of time, so you just dump it in like a small paragraph. So I think Simon Willison does this very well. Simon is
he has a lot of TILs. Today I learned. Not a TIL.
Yes, he does have a lot of TILs. But he would have a week log. How does he organize his site? What's funny is I never actually go to the site. Where's the week log? Is this the week log? Week notes. Okay, week notes. So the week notes will just have his ongoing thoughts, and it must be published every week. Or every 2 weeks, it looks like, but whatever. But like, this would be the entire blog post. So for example, for you, I actually call this a dead pool for myself, or I had, sorry, to be clear, I haven't done this yet, but it's something that you could do, which is, here's all the stuff that I'm thinking about that did not become a full blog post, but I need to get it out of my system so that I can move on.
Sounds
So
like a great idea. It's not part of the main feed, right? For him,
what's up to you? I think it is.
it
For
is?
him,
Oh,
it's a week note. The cutoff is a week.
I see.
Right. And he's like, this is what I worked on this week. Here are 3 things
Ah,
I'm thinking about. It's not a full blog post, whatever, but just
I actually do this at work every day. What Greg recommended? Weekly 5:15. But maybe I should do a personal one.
5:15. As in, like, is that a time or is it 5?
It's a 15:5. I don't know, it's a 5:15 or 15:5. Basically, it takes 15 minutes to write and 5 minutes to read.
Yeah. Wait,
So
is
it's
this
just like a weekly update to. Let me find you the post right now. Yeah.
Sorry, is this something that you do for yourself, or is this something your team imposes on you?
I do for myself,
Uh-huh.
and my manager gets a personal subscription in his inbox every Friday at the end of the day.
That's amazing.
And I found it super. Oh man,
Yeah, I know.
I can't find the link now. Yeah,
It's okay. It's posted in the chat later.
yeah, I'll find it.
And by the way, that process of you not being able to find the link, that is why I tweet stuff. Is every time I don't have that link, that means that I don't have the right keywords, or I don't have the right search words. And so you need to append new search words to that train of thought so that in future when you'll find it.
You're right. I can't remember where he mentioned that. He was just writing. Maybe it's not a. I think it was just a small idea in a larger post about writing.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll find it, and I'll share in the Discord.
Yeah, I really like this. I like that. I like people taking work logs. It's helpful for you, even if your manager didn't read it. But also it's helpful for the manager. I would say, the way I came across 15.5 was they're part of Launch School. So Launch 15.5 Launch. So you can actually see the founders pitching the project from 2012, 10 years ago, if you're interested in history of the software, because they are one of the successes of Launch School. Where else? Let's say this, okay. Launch this week in startups. Yeah, this guy. So he also has podcasts with Jason Calacanis, where he talks about 15.5 and the business behind it. If you're interested, I mean, if you like it so much, you should be interested. So
let me look into that.
Yeah, I'll post it in the chat. Cool. Well,
just tangentially, we were just discussing 15.5 at our work last week around 360 feedback.
Ooh,
and
okay.
we've been practicing that for over 20 years, it looks like, in our company. And we just brought back 360s, and people are asking for guidance. How long should I spend in giving someone feedback? And it's 15.5. And the same concept came in that different context.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Should
Nice.
Yeah, you should write 15. It should take 15 minutes to write the feedback, and their manager should take 5 minutes to read it. It should take 5 minutes for the manager to read it. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't used the system. I've heard about it, but just based on you guys liking it, I might try it. I might actually do it for my team, because I feel like we need that, especially for remote.
I can tell you that it has earned me a lot of trust with my managers.
Yeah.
And every week I review so many documents that the links are just everywhere. But I just say I reviewed this, I reviewed this, I reviewed this. And if anytime I need to revisit the document again, everything is in my 15.5 weekly log, right? So that's fantastic for me.
Awesome. Okay. Wow. And yeah, I learned that software. Jay says, check out.
So this is again tangential. Sri Ramakrishnan, he wrote a blog post and talking to about like when you started a new company, how to handle the first 30 days. And one of that is, I think there's a section called communicate at the bottom. Like the whole thing is worth reading, but it's the last part on communication is similar to what Eugene does, but it's for a wider audience. Hey, this is what I did. This is what I learned at this in the last week, and he sends it out to a wider audience. Turns out that makes someone more influential, and people. It's generally useful to the entire team.
Yeah.
Right? At the
Oh man, I need to do. I need to do this. Yeah, I suck at it. Okay. I fully agree. This is so important. Because I only report up. And so my boss knows, but I don't communicate it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I've been like just taking notes for myself, but not publishing. But I think that I should take that.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Wow. Please keep sharing this advice. I think it's really useful. I haven't come across this, but I love anything that's like sort of exec 101, just because that's kind of where I'm trying to level up as well. Awesome. And by the way, Jay, if you have an exec 101, you should write that as well. I feel like you have a lot of thoughts here.
Sure. Yeah. I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
I know, but
yeah.
It doesn't, I'm sure he still feels like he's learning, but he's, he wrote down 6 points and that was it. That was the blog post.
Yeah,
cool.
I think I should write like all the mistakes that I've made so far. Like that's a good one that I can write.
But that is super helpful as well. All
Yeah.
right. Well, one thing I wanted to bring up before we leave is that we are actually coming towards the end. I don't actually have a plan mapped out for like what we do towards the end. So essentially, I'll just end it off with this. So next week we're going to cover Twitter, just because it's so important to developers. And feel free to bring all your Twitter questions, Twitter thoughts, or ask me about like reviewing Twitter. Then it's marketing yourself, which is a sort of broader expansion on that. And then the final chapter is operating system review, which is the non-technical advice, or the productivity and keep taking care of yourself advice that really rounds up, I think, something that I've learned about from developers. So those would be the last 3 sessions, I think. We have other bonus concepts that we've already dived into, like friend catchers and creating luck. But otherwise, like, that's going to be the book. I think in future, basically, I'm going to be taking some time to write version 2 of the book based on just going through everything in the past 4 months. And so if you ever have like questions or thoughts, you've been super helpful and just giving feedback. So thanks. 15.5 updates. Let's see. Eugene has. Oh, this was the post that you were looking for?
Yeah, if you search 15.5, it's a long post, but I just took this habit and applied it. And it only takes less than 15 minutes. Yeah, so, and it's very helpful too. I even had other engineering managers and my PMs subscribing to this. They want this in their inbox as well. They just want to know whose other projects I'm reviewing, how they can reuse it, how they can reduce duplicate work, etc.
So this is an email thing?
It's a blog. So I have it on my blog. Anyone can see all of it. But I send it to actually it comes from Will Larson. Yeah, but I also send it out to my manager, asking him if he wants to stay subscribed, and more people heard about it and they want to subscribe to it as well.
Yeah.
So it gets sent out as a weekly email.
Got it. Okay, amazing. I really like this. I'm actually gonna, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take notes about this, and now like my publishing process now is something I really love, which is I make a new issue and I'll put in these links, right? So weekly updates, and then I'll just do that, and then this. What's the direct link? There's no direct link for this. Okay, building writing habits, and then this one, and then I have a blog post.
Nice.
So I don't have to publish it right away, but like I think this is important enough, and it's very contained. It's a small idea that doesn't need a lot of elaboration, just to make it real. So thank you. I really like this. I think this is we're gonna put this in as like part of the next iteration of the book. So I'm excited. Okay, well, yeah, we've already gone past the hour, but it's always lots of fun talking about this stuff. Thank you for joining as always, and I'll see you next week. I'll see you on Discord as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.